What's going on, everybody? This is Benjamin Choy bringing you another F1 2020 video. That's right, this week going back to the 2020 game. I was doing the weekly event in F1 2021 and it was just a practice quali and race at Zandvoort, which isn't really too fun for me. If you've seen any of my weekly event videos, you know that I love the overtaking challenges. So anyway, I decided to go into 2020 just to see if I can beat some time trial times, and when I booted up the game, I realized that the weekly event in F1 2020 was actually an overtaking challenge at Silverstone in the Renault, so I decided I'd give it a shot, see how I did, and post it up if I did okay. Gonna be running it at 105 difficulty with the racing line on, just because going back to this game I wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to adapt back to the old racing style, so I just put the racing line on anyway to make it a little bit easier for me. So yeah, this is at 105 in the Renault at Silverstone in F1 2020, and it was pretty fun. I love these things. Not too much fanfare with the intro. This is just a regular time trial setup. I think it's 2.7 wings. Time trial setup is 2.6, but I raised the front ride height from 1.3 to 5.3 just to get a little bit more rotation in the car. And the Renault actually handled the time trial setup with the two little changes that I made pretty well. I thought that since it was a lower performing car, the time trial setup might not be suitable with it, but it actually turned out fine. So here we are, lap 43, waiting until the hanger straight here to overtake both Grosjean and Russell. Not really much of an issue. The tires are still in pretty good condition on your car, so that was relatively easy for me. Here you want to kind of get up on Magnussen as close as possible. He runs into some mechanical issues going down the next DRS straight, but it's still you still need a lot of straight line speed to really catch up to him, even with DRS. So you want to get right onto his rear wing, or as close as possible, going into sector 1 here, and then hopefully you're close enough to where DRS should be able to help you get out in front of him. It was pretty weird going back to the 2020 game. The handling model is a little bit different. Car doesn't seem quite on rails as the 2021 game. Going into corners, felt like the car was a little bit on ice, a little bit floaty compared to this year's game. But going back and adapting back to this game wasn't super difficult. I still find the AI is much easier on F1 2020. This is at 105 difficulty, and I'm not that great of a driver, and it wasn't that difficult for me. And if you've played any of the weekly event overtake challenges in F1 2021, you'll know that even 100 AI difficulty is really difficult. So in the 2020 game with these kinds of events, you'll see at the top of the charts esports guys and other really fast drivers easily be able to beat the weekly events at 110 AI difficulty, and this year is totally a different story. A couple of 110s up there, but most of them are 105 and lower, so Codemasters definitely up the difficulty with the AI this year, and it's just a much tougher game. The handling model is a little bit different. Even though the car does seem a little bit more on rails, I think they're heading more towards a sim title kind of setup with the cars. So it's a lot easier to lock up the brakes. You'll have to, you can't cheese the curbs and you can't cheese the corners like you could in 2020. Here you'll see me riding the curbs pretty much every chance that I get. And if you do play the 2021 game, you know that you have to pretty much watch out for all the curbs, because most of them aren't really friendly towards your car, and they'll just unsettle the back end and make you ultimately lose a whole bunch of time on your laps. So even though the car doesn't feel quite as stable in 2020, it's just much easier to drive in last year's game than this year's game, which isn't always a bad thing. It's a pretty good challenge that you can set for yourself. I started, I think, 2021 at like I did try it at 105 difficulty and realized it was way more different than last year. So I had to drop it down to 90 and 95, but I worked my way back up to 100, so it actually feels pretty nice. But back to the race here. You're going to catch up to Giovinazzi right around start of lap 46. There were a few occasions, I think I ran this maybe 4 or 5 times for this recording. There were a few occasions where I actually caught up to Giovinazzi down the hangar straight and was able to pass him with DRS, but I think I was driving a little bit more conservatively this race here. So now you're going to catch up. I caught up to him on this DRS straight. I can't remember what this straight is called for the life of me. And I do put on overtake, but probably could have saved ERS there, as Giovinazzi isn't exactly super fast on the straights anyway. So up next is Perez and Raikkonen. And if you, once you overtake Giovinazzi, if you handle Sector 2 pretty well, you should be able to take both these guys down the next DRS straight. But I think this time I only overtook Raikkonen. So, yeah, I still had to catch up to Perez later on. It was actually pretty weird going back to this game, just having to deal with the fuel mix again. Luckily, I guess it was just muscle memory or something like that. I just remembered exactly what buttons were mapped to where as we overtake Raikkonen here. Did look to the inside to try and get past Perez there, but I thought better of it, as we still have plenty of laps left, and there's still a lot of time left in this challenge to overtake Perez. But yeah, the fuel mix handling was a bit of a pain in the ass. You know, I think at first I didn't really like that Cody's got rid of that in the 2021 game, but I think at this point I've learned to like it, just because, one, it's more true to life. They got, you know, the FIA got rid of party mode and fuel mixes and stuff like that last year, so it is nice that the game is a little bit more sim than it was last year. And secondly, it's just one less thing you have to worry about. You can focus more on racing as opposed to turning the fuel mix down going into a turn and then having to pump it back up into rich once you start getting on the gas. As you can see right there, Kvyat DNFs on the side of the road, so that's one free spot for you. Up to P9 now. I think we started P13, P14, P13. I'm sure you guys would have seen it at the video. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But yeah, P13 up to P9. I think it might have been 14. I overtook for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. P15 actually. Yeah, anyway, P15, we're up to P9 now. 3 seconds up the road. Stroll, Gasly, Ocon, and Norris up the road there. So 4 more cars to get up to P5, where you need to be. And right now, once you get out in front of Perez there in P10, pretty much just driving conservatively. Well, not conservatively, but trying to drive efficiently as possible. Don't wear out your tires. You're going to need it at the end to battle Norris. This is at 105, so I did kind of catch up to Norris, I think maybe with 1 or 2 laps left to go. But I imagine at 110 difficulty, you'll probably be catching up to Norris on the final lap. And you're going to need all the fuel, ERS, and grip that you can get. So right now, you know, push as much as you can, try to catch up with these guys, but you want to save as much of your resources for that final lap or two to make that last push to get out in front of the final couple of cars. Stroll and Gasly weren't too difficult for me. I think we were about 3 seconds behind Stroll a few sectors ago, and already working our gap down to about 2 seconds now, dropping a little bit of time through that maggots and Beckett's there. But now down the straight, we are 2 seconds behind, and I only ran this a couple times, so I don't really know what the AI is scripted to do. But in this race in particular, Stroll and Gasly do start battling. As of right now, actually, you can see them right now battling. But once I get a little bit closer to them, they start going too wide into corners and battling for position, which slows them down so much that I didn't even really have to use ERS or rich fuel mix to catch up to them. And once we hit the next DRS straight, I was able to overtake both of them. Not this one right here, the next one, I think the hangar straight. But anyway, it's nice to take advantage of the DRS here. You can save your ERS a little bit. don't bother using it down this straight. They're too far ahead. At least for me, they were too far ahead for me to catch anyway, so I just held off on the ERS. And they're really slow through the corners. All the AI are really slow through the corners, even at 105 AI difficulty. Silverstone is usually one of the tougher tracks to race against the AI, but for some reason this event, maybe it's just because they're in slower cars, you're not really battling the Mercedes, Red Bulls, or Ferraris, so the midfield cars aren't quite as tough at 105. But here is where we catch up to them. I had to back off a little bit, not wanting to run into the back of Stroll there and destroying my front wing, but getting the DRS, turning it on, and Gasly isn't really even much of a fight, and Stroll without DRS doesn't even bother defending there, so a pretty easy overtake. Now Ocon and Norris left to go, and you can see they're already on the horizon there. They're really close out in front of me. About 2 seconds in front is Esteban, and we have 3 laps starting right now to catch up to them. I did make a mistake counting my laps. You'll see in a little bit. I thought this was the second to last lap here, I believe. Anyway, yeah, so not close enough really to get DRS, but again, not really any point to using overtake here, as the AI is really slow around this track, so save all your ERS for when you're actually trying to overtake them. And you can see here we've already closed out maybe about half a second just through those last 2 corners there, almost at the 1 second mark. And it's a weird feeling going through Cops. I think this is Cops, right? Yeah, going through Cops flat out in worn out medium compound tires, because in 2021, even with fresh softs, it's kind of on edge on whether or not you can go flat out through Cops. But I think I did have to lift off quite a few times as we make our way around Norris. Yeah, so I thought this was the second to last lap, or else I wouldn't have made that dive. I probably would have waited until the next DRS to overtake him, but I thought we were on lap 51, and I figured only 1 lap left. I might as well try to get out in front of Norris so that I can just worry about Ocon for the last lap. But once we passed the finish line, I realized I was only on lap 50 at that point, and we still have 2 laps to go. I kind of just chuckled to myself. But anyway, what was I talking about? Cops, yes. Yeah, it was really weird. I had to lift off a couple times just out of habit. But I think towards the end of the race, I was able to take Cops flat out without having to worry too much, as we pass Ocon here for P1. And that's pretty much it. The AI kind of drops back too far to really be much of a threat. And I think by the time we get down to the next detection zone, they're too far back to really even be worth thinking about at this point. So now I'm out in front, 1.5 laps to go. Just drive clean, get to the end of the race. Probably wasn't going to get the fastest lap. I think Hamilton said it 127.7 or 127.6. And by now my medium compound tires were so worn out, and I really didn't have any ERS left to use. There wasn't a chance of me getting it. But yeah, this was pretty fun going back to F1 2020 and doing one of these challenges. It's nice to be able to play it at 105 difficulty and actually do well and not feel shit about myself, because the AI is so much more difficult in the new game. And it's just it's kind of weird, although this game pretty much looks exactly the same as 2021. The handling characteristics on the cars are different enough that you notice. I think in the new game the time trial wing setups are 6.8, and in this game you can get away with 2.6, which is crazy in my mind, just because 2.6 is pretty much the lowest downforce you could use in a car. I think even at Italy, the wings are like 2.5 in F1 2020. So to go from 2.6 wings to 6.8 wings, and even at 6.8, you still can't take Cops flat out in F1 2020 is pretty crazy. But it was pretty fun to go back to the to last year's game and do an overtaking challenge. And I don't know how long Cody's is planning on supporting this game, but as long as they're going to be continuing to put these kinds of challenges into F1 2020, I think I'm going to come and check back every week to see if there's anything worth checking out. But yeah, this was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For those of you guys still playing F1 2020, I hope this has helped you out a bit. I know it wasn't quite as in-depth or tutorial-like as I normally like to do. I only ran this a couple times and recorded it for fun, but I wanted to put this up anyway, just so you guys can kind of enjoy it. And if there are still guys playing F1 2020, you know, maybe take away one or two things that they see me doing that'll help them get faster. But yeah, we finished and we accomplished our goal, finishing in P5, missing out on the fastest lap. But it's alright. It was still pretty fun to play at 105 difficulty. Pretty proud of myself. I know the racing line was still on, but I'm not used to the... I know it's only been like 2 months since 2021 came out, but I've already gotten used to a new handling model, so I figured I should just put the racing line assist on to be safe anyway. And that celebration looks pretty much like the old game. Yeah, I'm sure if you guys have played these games through the years, you know that the changes are pretty minimal in the gameplay aspect of it. 373,964, pretty good. It's in the menus where most of the changes are made in this game. So driving in game still pretty much all looks the same. And with our score, it was good enough for P3. Booyah. It's actually pretty good. There's 1,700 people playing. P3 was pretty good. But yeah, thank you guys for checking this out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys might have picked out one or two things that'll help you out with your racing. Remember to eat your bok choy. Stay tuned for more videos. If you think I've earned it, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video.